Hi math students, it's Miss Carol again, and I am back for Project 1, Lesson 2. We've got 2 more questions, and hopefully it won't take us very long to get through these. So let's jump right in. We're still dealing with our 6 friends who are planning a birthday party to host between 12 and 20 friends. So if you remember from the previous lesson, we've got between 18 and 26 people coming to this party all together. So in this lesson, the group of friends decided to make chocolate chip cookies for the party. The recipe says that it will yield about 32 cookies, and they want to have enough cookies for each person to have 3 or 4 cookies, including themselves. Okay, so that's where we get that 18 to 26. In order to have enough cookies, they know they will need to make more than one batch. 3 of the ingredients in the recipe are given as fractional values: 2 1/4 cup of flour, 3/4 cup of sugar, and 3/4 cup of brown sugar. Use what you have learned about rewriting rational numbers in different forms and multiplying and dividing rational numbers in order to answer the following 2 questions. Okay, so the first question is a 3-part question. And it says, how many batches of chocolate chip cookies need to be made? Explain how we've determined our answer by addressing each of the following aspects of the party. And just so you know, depending on what number of guests you choose, there's going to be different answers. Again, I am doing this for you. You are welcome to use the exact same numbers that I choose. However, you don't have to. You can use your own, and the calculations will follow the same procedures, but the numbers, your answers would be different. Okay, so I am going to say that we are going to have 20 people, okay? And that means that 14 people out of the 20 invited were able to show up, which is a pretty good number, okay? So it's between 18 and 26. I'm going to say that 20 people are attending the party, including the hosts. So I'm just going to write that down. That's my number of people. 20 total people attending. Okay, so based on my answer to part A, how many total cookies need to be made in order for each person to have 3 or 4? So we're going to pick 3 or 4. And I really like cookies, so I'm going to say that each person is going to have 4. And I will also like to kind of plan higher. So I'm going to say each person's going to have 4. So if I have 20 people and I need to multiply it by 4 cookies per person, 20 times 4 is 80 cookies total, okay? People cancel out there and I'm left with 80 cookies total. All right. If you'll remember, I know that each batch of cookies can make 32 cookies. So in order to figure out how many batches of cookies I need to make, I need to divide 80 cookies divided by, okay, well, actually, I'm going to write this different. I'm just going to put it underneath. I'm going to put it in the denominator. It makes our units just look a little tidier. So this will be divided by 32 cookies per batch. And what happens then is my batch goes into the numerator, and this will tell me exactly how many cookies or how many batches I need to get 80 cookies. So 80 divided by 32 is 2.5 batches of cookies. 2.5 batches. And look at that. I guess I didn't even realize that the answer that was in the course for me was exactly the same, but I guess it's nice to know that I did it right. Okay, so 2.5 batches of cookies. That's a good thing to know. All right, so again, you can use my math and my answers. You do need to write it out, or you can choose a different total number of people coming. You can say maybe 3 cookies per person. You can change this up. It's up to you. The process will be the same. Your answers will be different, but I do need you to write out what you've done. So go ahead and show your work. Okay. All right, so we have 2.5 batches. And so we need to then do a little converting for flour, sugar, and brown sugar to see exactly how much we need. And I'm going to show you maybe a couple different methods of doing this, all right? So let's just remind ourselves we need 2.5 batches. And that can also be written as 2 1/2, okay? And that can also be written as 5/2. Okay, so for each one of these, we're going to do the calculation slightly differently using a different form of our rational number. So for the first one, if I have 2 1/4 cups of flour per batch, okay, and I know that I need 2 1/2 batches, all right, let's see what I need for 2 batches. So 2 batches is 2 1/4 plus 2 1/4. Well, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 1/4 plus 1/4 is 1/2. So I need 4 1/2, and that'll get me 2 batches. But a 1/2 batch, okay, if I divide, now let's do a 1/2 batch. Okay, a 1/2 batch is going to be 2 1/4 divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. So that's 1 1/8, okay, which is the same as 1 2/8. Okay, actually, what do I need that in? No, actually, not. It's not the same as 1 2/8. I'm sorry, I was trying to get my same denominators, and what I should have done is actually change the 4 1/2 to 4 4/8. Sorry about that. So, so now I've got a 1/2 batch and I've got 2 batches, and I need to now add these together. All right. So what I need to do is say that this is 4 4/8 because 1/2 is the same as 4/8. Now I can add these two quantities. 4 plus 1 is 5, okay? And 4/8 plus 1/8 is 5/8, okay? So that's how much flour I would need to make 2 1/2 batches, all right? That is one method. That is where I'm going to show you a couple different methods. There's more than one way to do this, and different people are comfortable with different methods. So let's do another method for the sugar. And we need 3/4 cups of sugar. And so let's leave it as a fraction, and let's just multiply it by our 2.5 batches. So I've got 3/4 cups of sugar, okay? And I'm going to multiply it by 2.5 batches, but I'm going to just go ahead and put it in my improper fraction, okay? And when I do that, let's just rewrite it, get the units out of there, and just use the numbers. Okay, when I do that and you're multiplying fractions, you can multiply straight across. Okay, so that gives me 15. 3 times 5 is 15, and 4 times 2 is 8. That gives me 15/8, or 1 7/8 cup of sugar. Okay, and this over here was cups of flour, by the way. All right, So that is another method. I kind of like that one. That one's, to me, a lot simpler, straight across versus the figuring out what 2 batches is and then a half batch and then adding it together. I really like that one. The other thing that you could do if you are so inclined to use decimals, or maybe you keep a calculator in the kitchen, for 3/4 cup of brown sugar, okay, we know it's going to be 1 7/8 because they're the same. So we know that that's going to be the same for both. But let's just do this with decimals, okay? I know that 3/4 equals 0.75. All right, so if I have a calculator handy, I can multiply 0.75 times 2.5. And the reason I would convert it into a decimal first is that most calculators don't do fractions very easily. Some can, but most that you'd keep in your kitchen would work off of a decimal a little bit easier. And when I do that, I get 0.75 times 2.5. And that is 1.875. And if I were to change 0.875 into a fraction, I'd find that it was the same as 7/8. So this is 1.875 cups of brown sugar, which is the same as 1 7/8 cup. Okay, so lots of different ways to do this. Hopefully you're really comfortable with at least one and familiar with more than one. If you have any questions or concerns about any of this, please don't hesitate to contact me. Again, your answers might be slightly different if you chose different numbers, but you're welcome to choose the same numbers that I did. Just please show your work. Thanks.